In games and films about the Second World War, you can often see how towers fly off effectively from the destroyed tanks. Moreover, directors of films use this artistic technique for almost every second destroyed tank in the film. In this video, we will try to figure out in what cases a tank could have been torn off a turret and how often this happened on the battlefield. Naturally, the most common reason is the explosion of the ammo rack, which is located in the tank. So, for example, German tanks most often had it on the sides, and in Soviet T-34s on the bottom of the hull. If an armor-piercing or cumulative projectile managed to penetrate the armor at the location of the ammunition rack, fragments or a cumulative jet could easily lead to detonation of high explosive fragmentation projectiles. At this moment, excess pressure arose in the tank, which was looking for a way out along the path of least resistance, and in well-protected and sealed vehicles. This place was in the tower. So the blast wave successfully tore off and threw the tank turret into the air. There were two ways to reduce the likelihood of the jack-in-the-box effect: to limit the number of high-explosive fragmentation shells and ammunition as much as possible, or to fight with open hatches. In the second case, blast wave exited through the hatches. This, of course, did little to the survival of the crew, but it slightly increased the chances. By the way, in modern tanks, designers use special knockout panels in the ammunition compartments. Their essence lies in the fact that the outer wall is made weaker than the inner ones, so the blast wave is redirected outward, reducing the risks for the crew. It is noteworthy that in the British tanks Matilda II at Valentine, armed with a 2-pound cannon, there were no high-explosive fragmentation shells in the ammunition load, so the turret of these tanks was rarely torn off. An interesting solution to reduce the likelihood of an ammunition explosion was found by American designers. The so-called wet ammo rack was actively used on the Shermans. It consisted of boxes with double walls and individual cells for each projectile, the cavity between which was filled with water and the addition of ethylene glycol. In the event of damage to the ammunition rack, the liquid spilled and extinguished the gunpowder that began to smolder, thereby preventing an explosion. However, after the Second World War, wet ammunition stowage began to be used extremely rarely, since the widespread cumulative projectiles with their jet detonated the ammunition stowage without any problems even in water. We figured out the protection measures, but how easy was it to blow up a tank ammunition rack? Maybe filmmakers are truthfully showing that every second has a tower flying off. In fact, it was not so easy to blow up the ammo rack, especially since the tanks were most often facing the enemy with a frontal projection, where the thickness of the armor was maximum. Therefore, to successfully defeat the ammunition rack, it was first necessary to enter the enemy vehicle into the side or stern, and only then make an aim shot. By the way, on our channel, you could find an interesting video about how Soviet tankers came up with a military trick, in which German scouts and observers mistook Soviet tanks for the S-2. This kind of misinformation allowed the Russian to change the battle plan and win the tank battles on the battlefield. You could find the link under the description to this video. It could also tear off the turret from the tank in case of careless driving. For example, the photo shows a somewhat comical case when a T-34 unsuccessfully gored a German anti-tank gun, which in response tore the turret off the tank. Naturally, such cases were rare. In your opinion, which tanks were more likely to have their turrets ripped off? German, Soviet, or American? Write your opinion in the comments, preferably with arguments. It will be interesting to read.